Morning San Antonio starts right now.
We begin with some late-breaking news this morning. Former San Antonio Mayor Julian Castro has ended his presidential campaign.
Castro made the announcement on Twitter just a few minutes ago, saying, quote, "I'm so proud of everything we've accomplished together. I'm going to keep fighting for an America where everyone counts. I hope you'll join me in that fight," end quote.
This all comes after he was unable to find footing in the polls, rarely getting more than 2% of overall support. He also failed to qualify for the December Democratic presidential debate.
This is a developing story. Make sure you stay connected with us with KSAT, both on air and online, for the latest.
And good morning to you. It is Thursday. It is January 2nd. Sarah's back with us this morning. Hi there. I'm hoping and glad that you're feeling better.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't know what it was. New year, my body's like, new you. We're gonna
right. And there is stuff going around right now, and then you factor in the mountain cedar too, and we're hoping for some good news there because the mountain cedar count around here has been brutal in the last day or so. Strange story out of Wake Forest, North Carolina.
I really like this story. So a family decides, oh, we're gonna stay at home for dinner. We're gonna pop in a pizza in the oven, but then things went just bad.
Snake and bake is what we're calling it. The Helms family cooked a snake hiding in their oven while they were preparing dinner. Oh, there's what's left of the snake. Okay, so nobody saw it. They just popped the pizza right there on the rack. Okay.
It said the oven started smoking. I told my boys, back up so I can make sure nothing's getting on fire or anything could happen. I looked close and I was like, oh my gosh, it's a snake.
The family also said the smell was, as you might imagine, wonderful. No, it wasn't.
No.
They said nobody likes snakes and nobody likes them when you find them burning in your oven. Instead of eating the pizza, they said, we went out to eat. We did not eat pizza. I hear a lot of people asking that question. Did we eat pizza? No.
One of the wife said, I am sad the way the snake died. The oven hasn't been in use since the snake bake.
Robert Helms said, oh no, it's in double, triple cleaning mode. I put that on cycle last night. It's soaking now. The grill grates have even been pulled out. And they plan to bring in animal experts to find out where the snake came from and how it ended up in their oven in the first place. So there's shake and bake, and now there's snake and bake.
That just, when they talked about the smell, I just can't even imagine.
I can't either. So yeah, definitely trash the pizza. Let's take a look at your GMSA rundown on this January 2nd.
End of a two-day siege at the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad. Iranian-backed protesters have withdrawn from that U.S. compound.
The Pentagon is staying on top of the crisis, sending hundreds of additional troops to the Middle East overnight, just in case new violence breaks out.
Australia is suffering through the worst wildfires the country has seen in decades.
At the moment, everybody's panicking, and it's pretty surreal.
More than a dozen deaths already confirmed nationwide.
Pope Francis was quick to issue a public apology for his flash of anger while greeting the faithful on New Year's Eve. Francis was grabbed by a woman who wouldn't let go, so he slapped her a few times.
The NBA community mourning the death of Commissioner David Stern, who passed away Wednesday. Stern had been involved with the NBA for nearly 20 years before becoming commissioner. The league says he died after suffering a brain hemorrhage. Deputies say a woman was killed in a New Year's celebration over in Houston. She was hit by a stray bullet. Investigators say the 61-year-old was hit in the neck. She was actually pronounced dead at the scene.
The Senate reconvenes next week, and there are major questions surrounding President Trump's impeachment trial, including whether witnesses will be called to testify. President Trump, who rang in the new year at Mar-a-Lago, says he's happy for a trial to take place.
The woman was driving when she slammed through 3 fences before hitting a shed last night. Police say that woman was being assaulted by a man in the passenger seat at the time. Officers say the fight caused the woman to veer off the road and crash.
January 2nd is considered National Returns Day. UPS is estimating that Americans will be returning nearly 2 million items today alone. That's a 26% jump over last year.
Little Penelope Novato was San Antonio's first baby of 2020. She was born just 25 seconds after the stroke of midnight at Methodist Hospital.
He had the finish line of a race in Brazil right there in sight, so close.
But the guy in second place never gave up, winning the race right at the line. When you strut, you stumble.
Last year I saw a bunch of videos where it was snippets of people thinking they had the race in the bag, not just runners, but a variety of different competitions. At the very last second got overtaken and somebody else wins.
No, you have to
push through to the end.
Push through.
We're going to push through with our forecast, too, as we round out the week and head into the first full weekend of 2020. Earlier today, Mike mentioned we might see some clearing later on. And Justin?
Yes, so we will see some clearing. It may take some time, though. We'll probably have to wait until this afternoon before that happens. Right now, still cloudy. We've still got a few light returns on the radar. And temperatures still on the chilly side, 54 degrees at the airport right now, 46 in Rock Springs, 44 right now in Del Rio. Dew point is at 50, calm winds, cloudy skies officially here in San Antonio right now. Let's take a look at the radar, and you can see some of those very light showers still off to the west of San Antonio, so that's still got to get through here before we're done with all of this. The rainfall has not been great. We have not picked up a whole lot. We'll talk about rainfall totals here in just a bit, but some more moderate rain down there around Victoria and Beeville at this hour, and still a few light sprinkles here around San Antonio. There's a clearing line. You can pick it up way out there towards Del Rio, so that will slowly work west to east today. You mentioned the pollen count earlier. It is good news. Mountain Cedar's in a moderate category, down from where it has been. We had 10 straight days of it being in the high category, down some, and mold is also low. Forecast for today up around 62, 64 for a high. We'll see mostly cloudy skies again, some clearing late, and then a lot more sun coming up tomorrow and over the weekend. We'll have more on that here in just a few minutes. Guys?
Thank you, Justin. TransGuide right now, it's on a loop, and that's good news. We will move along.
Top stories we are following today. A family dispute at a Northwest Side apartment ends with 2 people in the hospital.
Police say a man suffered a gunshot wound to his shoulder. A woman was cut on the leg with a knife. Officers found both of them at the Latitude Apartments in the 6400 block of Wurzbach shortly after midnight. Police were able to find a suspect just a block or so away and arrested him.
Right now, it's unclear what charges the suspect is facing. The 2 victims were taken to the hospital, both in serious condition. In your morning headlines, a U.S. ambassador to Ukraine is stepping down, and a man sleeps through a carjacking and ends up in another state.
Wow. And what happens when you're 7 and you swallow a wireless AirPod? Good question. We say Happy New Year to David Sears.
Good morning.
Morning.
Great lesson for all parents out there.
We're listening.
Watch what you give those youngsters and then watch what they do with them.
Okay.
Have that for you just a second. Hey, you might recognize this man from the House Intelligence impeachment hearings. Ambassador to Ukraine, Bill Taylor. He was one of the key witnesses in those hearings, and as of today, he is no longer the ambassador. He announced earlier this week that he was stepping down from that post. He made the announcement during a 2-minute video. He also stressed that the United States' support for Ukraine and his optimism for that country. He did not talk about the Trump impeachment hearings. He did announce that Deputy Chief Christina Kibbian would take over for now. By the way, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo was headed to Ukraine, but postponed that trip because of the situation in Baghdad. Now, this is one that's very bizarre and very scary at the same time. A guy was sleeping in his truck when he was carjacked. The carjacking happened in Missouri. The thief took off with the truck from a gas station. The carjacker headed for Oklahoma. He went 130 miles to Tulsa. All the while, the owner was sleeping. When the guy finally woke up, the thief kicked him out of the truck. The owner had his cell phone, so he called the OnStar security system. They were able to remotely slow his truck down to just 15 miles an hour to make it easier for police to catch him. The carjacker arrested, now in jail. Another quick story from the just because you have a driver's license, a fast car, and a cell phone category doesn't mean you're all that smart. This guy live streaming himself flying down a highway in Connecticut, and then he crashed. He was going 100 miles an hour in a 55. He lost control on a highway ramp, then slammed into a guardrail. That crash is about to happen here. Here it comes, just a second. We'll wait. Hurry up. He's doing 100 miles an hour, so it's not going to take him much longer to get there. But anyway, he was wearing a seatbelt, so that was the smart thing he did. The police actually posted it. There he goes. The police actually posted this video on their Facebook page. They wanted to show an example of speeding and live streaming and what can happen. Nothing good. And finally this morning, this is why those AirPods belong in your ears and not in your mouth, because you can swallow them like this 7-year-old in Georgia. There it is. He was headed to the emergency room. Doctors took x-rays and say the wireless AirPod was below his rib cage. Naturally, everybody, including the little guy, was kind of scared.
He was very nervous. He's like, well, he thought he was going to be in trouble. So, we just kind of assured him that it's okay.
All right, the doctors decided they would just let nature take its course and let the AirPod come out on its own, which should take a few days. The boy has decided to stay off his cell phone. He doesn't even want to get near it because he doesn't want to connect to his AirPod in his stomach because, you don't want to hear let it go or anything like that coming out of your stomach, do you?
No.
No. His mom said maybe it'll be a while before I buy him some of those electronic gadgets if he's going to put them in his mouth. But there's a lesson for all parents.
Or, kids like to.
You're thinking of something, I know.
I'm speechless.
Yeah.
They like to put things in their mouth and hold them and chew them around, what's his name does with his mouth guard. I guess it's
What's his name?
The guy with the mouth guard. Steph Curry, thank you.
Yeah. He tends to chomp on that.
Yeah, so kids maybe do it thinking it's cool, or I don't know.
I was thinking football, like all those guys in football wear mouth guards, but they all take them out, stick them in their helmets, or whatever. But anyway, yeah. So you got to watch your kids because they start chewing on that stuff. Next thing you know, you're playing music from your stomach.
Kids do the darndest things. Thank you, David. Right now, 9:08, 54 degrees.